And hello, everybody, and welcome into a special edition of Tigers Tonight that we like to call Why I Coach. And we have the pleasure of being joined by University of Memphis head football coach Ryan Silverfield. Coach, thanks for joining us today.
Yeah, absolutely. Glad I could be here tonight. Appreciate you guys having me on.
Hey, so before we get into the serious stuff, I had three different people ask me about the dog you adopted in 2021 and how Sadie is fitting into the pack there in the Silverfield household.
Oh, I love it. Those are the type of questions I'm happy to answer. So as long as we're not talking about transfer portal and NIL, we're good. But Sadie Silverfield's doing great. She's been a great addition. Just turned 3 years old, and you guys, all the fans out there know I'm obsessed with dogs enough so that I actually adopted another one. So I've got another pit mix named Cooper that we adopted here locally, and so it's been fun. Got two dogs that run the household, and they allow me to function at a normal level when the few hours I'm home at night.
All right, let's go ahead and start. And I'll take us back to the high school days. Bowles High School. You had a great head coach down there, Corky Rogers. My high school ball was a little bit south of yours. I was in Tampa, playing at Plant City, and you were over there in Jacksonville. But talk to us about the high school experience for you, because I think you guys went to 3 state championships out of 4 years you were there, and won 2.
Yeah, very fortunate. Was able to be able to participate in 3 state championships. But I think so much it goes back to our head coach Corky Rogers. He's the winningest head football coach in high school history in the state of Florida. I think at the time when he retired, he was 3rd all time in the entire country. And I think what he instilled in us and the work ethic and the mindset and the approach allowed us to be able to compete at a high level. And I think that's one of the reasons why I fell in love with the profession. But look, Coach Rogers, the utmost respect. Obviously, unfortunately, he's passed away since, but he's a man that I will always hold in high regard. And he actually gave me my first opportunity to coach. But yeah, we were very fortunate at a program like that. My senior year, we were 15-0. My sophomore year, played with a bunch of better players than me, but I was able to fortunate play as a sophomore. We were the number 1 ranked team in the entire country at one time. But I think it all stems back to the details and attention and the great coaching.
Talking about those championship games, that 96 team, was that your sophomore year or was that your junior year?
Yeah, it was my sophomore year.
Okay, yeah, you guys lost to Bartow by 1. What do you remember about that game?
Yeah, we were the number 1 ranked team in the entire country, and you look at the guys I played on defense with, and all of them played major Division I college football on scholarship, and a few of them actually played in the NFL. And then there was little old me that teams used to run the ball right at, and so I remember that. Look, it was I was surrounded by a lot better players than myself. Just very fortunate to play at a young age, and we went into the game, and we had our starting quarterback was named Chris Ryer. Chris now works in the video department for the Jacksonville Jaguars, and he was a commitment to Alabama actually as a defensive back. And we were up 7-0, second drive of the game, driving the ball down the field, and Chris breaks his leg, and it was one of those. You're exactly right. Well, lost my point, and I just remember saying, "Wow, that's those are some of the tough losses." I think at that point it puts things in perspective that no matter how talented you are, how good of a team you are, that things can change dramatically, whether it's due to injury or just something that occurs in the game, and it shows you how fragile the game can be as well.
What position did you play?
I was an undersized nose guard. I was just one of those. It was back in my day. I used to like to lift weights. That was a long time ago, and try to mix it up in the middle with people. I probably fought more than I should have back in my younger days.
Did you play any other sports besides football?
No, I wasn't athletic enough. Anybody's ever watched me? I can throw a football a little bit. I don't look that bad, but nope, no other sports. I think part of it, back in the day, they talk about having multi-sports athletes. I certainly wasn't Chipper Jones or any of those athletes of that nature. I need to just focus on football, and it was enough time consuming.
So that was the mid to late 90s. What was in your CD player? What did you listen to?
I grew up, my father listened to classic rock. My first concert ever was an AC/DC concert when I was 10 years old. Wore a cutoff shirt and a bandana with my dad. And I think he put 2 flasks in my back pocket at age 10. And we rocked out to AC/DC, and then I've gone to see Bob Seger concerts with him. But really in the late 90s, also 1995, went and saw Notorious B.I.G. in concert. So I'm probably the only living head coach that has seen AC/DC and Notorious B.I.G. in concert, and then, seen Rolling Stones and Garth Brooks, but a wide mix, but to get me revved up before games, a big Rage Against the Machine fan. Obviously they're back on tour, so maybe some of your older listeners will appreciate some of my music genre choices.
Nice. And when did you first, I guess, think about becoming a coach, changing from being a player to a coaching profession?
Yeah. So Brian, spring of my senior year of high school, that was really when I started coaching. My only official visit was to Georgetown University. I thought it was just a basketball school for academics up in the north. And, at that point, I had no idea that they even had football. And that was my only official visit. It was the only school that was wanting to fly me up there. Some of the Ivy League schools did in-home visits with me and saw that I was too short. Back in the day, you used to mail in a VHS tape and put it on a piece of paper. And obviously that was 6'2", but man, anybody that sees me knows that I'm about 3 inches off on that one. So, wasn't ever going to be a big time football player. Had some opportunities maybe to walk on at Florida State or places like that. And, reality, it just struck me that, this career is not going to take me where I wanted. So I started coaching spring my senior year of high school. And so therefore I give credit to the former head coach at Bowles that gave me that opportunity. Our defensive line coach at the high school at the time was coaching baseball at a nearby university. And so it just worked out well that I was able to have a bigger role. And, that's kind of really what the bug it bit me at age 18 years old.
Nice. And fast forward to Memphis, you have a knack, or the staff has a knack of finding, I guess the quote unquote underrated kids like Dustin Woodard. I love how you talked about him. He didn't have a lot of offers. What did you see, in his game film that was like, this kid could play for us?
Yeah, and it goes back. It's pretty interesting. I actually watched Dustin Woodard's film when I was coaching with the Detroit Lions, and I was in a hotel room the night before a game. Coach Norvell had sent me some guys. He's like, "Hey, look, and I watched the film, and I immediately called Mike. And I said, "How tall is this kid?" He said, "Don't worry about it." I said, "Man, this kid can play ball." And that was a big knock, obviously, on Dustin was his height and, being a 265-pound left tackle at a very good high school. But you watch the film, you go back and you watch it. And then, what was interesting when the recruiting process happened, I remember getting to Memphis, right, when I played the Chicago Bears, and I was in Memphis 2 days later, starting my job here. And, there was a 4-star kid that wanted to come here. And I didn't like his film, and I didn't enjoy being around the player. But then sitting around Dustin Woodard, you like the tenacity, the intelligence, the work ethic, the mindset, the approach. I said, man, I don't care if this guy's 6 foot. He's got the type of demeanor, I think, that can allow him to play and allow him to be a freshman All-American, obviously a 4-year starter, played more snaps almost than anybody in Memphis history at the offensive line. And obviously the ability to get drafted by the Patriots. And, you look and you talked about that, being able to find those type of guys. I think part of it's right with the Dylan Parms of the world, and then obviously we've had so much success. I always say this, if we really knew what we were doing, right, we would have scholarshiped Anthony Miller out of high school or Calvin Austin would have been on scholarships out of high school. But kudos to those guys and the credit to them for their work ethic.
Hey, last question for me before I throw it to Leon. If you weren't coaching football, what would you be doing?
Man, I'd probably go out and certainly no one would call me a golf pro, but I'd probably be a boat captain somewhere out there. My free time, which is limited, I love just being out there on the water. I think it's the one time I get to clear my mind and do all that. So maybe I'm not much of a fisherman, but maybe it'd be a fishing charter, doing something of that nature.
Leon?
Yes, sir. How you doing, Coach? This is Leon.
Good, Leon. How you doing?
Doing great. Now, take us back, man. How do you go from Hampton, Sydney to going to the NFL? What was that experience like?
Yeah, look, I was much similar to how I got started coaching, when I was 18. At the age of 20 at Hampton, Sydney, which is Division III college in Virginia, small college football. Really my freshman year, they got a new head coach, and I stood outside his office and said, "Hey, I want to coach ball." And he said, "I don't know who you are. I'm not going to hire you, but just convinced him enough to let me hang around." And early in my career there, I was kind of like a grad assistant. And then at the age of 20, the defensive line job came open. And I don't share this with many people, but the ability to either coach or finish up a college education, I said, man, I'm dropping out of college so I can be a full-time coach. Obviously, I got my degree, and don't worry, graduated with economics. So we're not going to have any old resume snap through. They're going to be pulling me out of my job because of lies on the deal. But no, got a college degree, all that fun stuff. But the opportunity to be able to coach and be a full-time position coach at the age of 20 was unique. And I was coaching guys that were older than me. And I think what happened was, for me, it was always about, how can I learn and grow in this profession? And, at the age of 23, I was a head high school coach in Savannah, Georgia. And then, okay, what was the next step? I need to meet more people. And then I was a quarterbacks coach at Jacksonville University in Jacksonville, Florida. And then from there, it was, okay, how do I meet more people? How do I get to the Division I level? And, really what changed a lot for me was the opportunity to either be a grad assistant at Auburn or a grad assistant at UCF. And everyone says, well, why wouldn't you take Auburn? But Auburn at the time, that was when these staffs were growing, and they had about 12 grad assistants. And at UCF, they said, well, it's just going to be you, and you're probably going to work about 130 hours a week, and you're going to sleep in the office. I said, well, that's how I can make a difference, and people are going to notice me. I'm more apt to get promoted for a full-time job at UCF. And was very fortunate. Was around a lot of great coaches. Obviously, at that time, I had the opportunity to coach against Memphis, but 2 years later, after being there and the ability to be able to stay on or go to the NFL, I was able to get my foot in the door in the NFL. And again, like a lot of things, just very fortunate with the right around people to be surrounded to continue to learn this game and grow in this profession.
Yes, sir. As you mentioned, being around, great people, how do you translate that experience from being around so much knowledge to your program?
Yeah, look, I take things from everybody I've learned. And, whether it's Corky Rogers, my old high school coach, Marty Favret, the head coach at Hampton Sydney College, it's still been there since the day he got there and hired me many moons ago, to, guys like Leslie Frazier, Brad Childress, Jim Caldwell. I try to get things and ideas for everybody. I've went and visited the Pittsburgh Steelers, right? Whether it's learning from Mike Tomlin or, going and visiting with Mike Vrabel and the Titans and taking different notes. And not everything is going to match up with exactly what we want to do in our program, but shame on me if I'm not learning and growing or seeing one thing I like that maybe we can change. I've had a lot of communication with Arthur Smith, the head coach of the Falcons. And so, and reaching out, Mike Norvell, and I still talk, hey, have you done this? Have you done? And I think what's happened is, how do you, in this ever changing game of college football, you got to adapt and continue to stay ahead of the curve. So everything that I can learn from somebody else or somewhere else, I don't care if I read a darn Ben Franklin biography, how can it apply to our program? So there's different things. Obviously, we don't want to be grabbing from 6 million different places. Let's have our values, our vision, our culture set the way we want. If there's things that we can add to continue to head in the right direction, we'll do so.
Yes, sir. Last and final question. What's it been like to adapt to the culture of Memphis? Like, all those people that you mentioned are like blue collar people. So coming to Memphis for the culture is almost like you've been around it your whole life.
Yeah, I love it. And that's, anybody that goes back and remembers the day I got introduced as the interim head coach, I was like, this is the perfect fit for me. And, being the head coach here and being here now going year 7, I think anybody that genuinely knows me and our fan base hopefully continues to get to learn who I am as a person, understands that this place is special to me. And I think a lot of it is because it's the right fit for me from a culture standpoint. And that's why I think it molds well with not only the people of this community, this city, this university, and our players, because the blue collar people I've had the good fortune to work with day in, day out. And I always will have that mentality because, go back to it. I still sometimes say, hey, I'm just a Division III coach that keeps working his tail off and trying to make good things happen.
Absolutely.
Hey, Coach. So last time we talked, you were in your second spring, going through your second spring, and now you've gone through 3 springs, 2 fall camps, going through your third. Tell me one thing that's most surprised you about being a head coach.
Well, and everybody says it, there's always going to be something that occurs every single day. When Chris Peterson retired, he said the amount of stuff that was coming by my desk on a day-to-day would shock the average person. And reality of it is this: look, no one ever wants to hear a head coach that that gets to do his dream job, and do well and do fine, complain. But there's always something, right? That right now there's something occurring within my program that will need my attention when we get off this call. That's okay. That's part of it. And responsible for 200 people underneath this watch, and it's just making sure. And sometimes it's being able to provide constant leadership. Zig Ziglar said it all the time. Someone said, "Well, motivation is not that important. You need to do it every single day." He said, "Absolutely," and that's part of it, right? It's influencing these 18 to 22-year-olds, our coaches, coaching the coaches. But the reality is this: it's ever changing, and I can't sit back and I've talked about this before in the past to the media. There's no game plan for the way this college football the game is unfolding and the way it's doing. You can't look in a manual and say, okay, this is what it is. So staying on top of it. But the biggest thing is, hey, understanding that no day is going to be the same, and there's going to be different challenges, and how do we continue to stay on top of it and make sure that we're pulling in the right direction to have a successful program.
So other than going for 2 versus ECU last year, is there a single decision anytime in your coaching career that you look back on and second guess?
Yeah, no, I mean, there's always going to be, right? And that's the nature of it. Should we have onside kicked here? Should we received here? Should we have gone for it here? Should we not have? I think that's part of it. I would drive myself crazy in 24 years of coaching if I second guessed everything, right? That's why they make wives and fans, right? To second guess us and question our decision making. That's the nature of it. And the media, right? That's y'all's job, right? To second guess me in every decision I make. And that's part of it. And I just got to keep my head down and make sure that every decision we're making is for the betterment of our program, what I think. And, I go back and I'm very analytical and critical of myself. And whether it's a game call, a game plan, it may be even how we travel. Man, should I have gotten us there 2 hours early? And you got to go back through it, because we're not going to get better if I don't. I go back and I talk to the entire staff about that East Carolina call, right? Should we have gone for 2, right? Was it the right situation in the game? What was our kicking situation like? What are the overtime rules of college football, which I think a lot of fans still didn't know, and maybe even some media were still trying to understand the new rules of college football and what the second, third overtime call for. And so those are all parts of it, but I can't worry about what everybody else thinks. I've just got to make the right decision at the right time, and then learn from it and grow from it. And maybe sometimes it's a decision that I probably questioned that worked out the right way, that maybe said the next time that probably wasn't the right thing, but man, we got lucky on that one.
So you're known as a recruiter, and I think rightly so. You're probably the best recruiter in terms of head coaches that we've had in my lifetime. I don't think that's even close. Tell me what you look for. If there's one intangible in a player you look for.
Yeah, I think right now the biggest thing, and I appreciate the compliment. I think that's important. I think recruiting is the lifeblood of any program, and I appreciate the fact that stars don't necessarily win games, but to be fortunate to have back-to-back best recruiting class program history, I think is important. That means that maybe that some other people with some intelligence agree with me. But I think the biggest thing we look for is, do they love football, right? Is this the type of guy that we want that's going to fit in our culture? Like I said before, we've seen some guys that can go out there and flat out play football, but they don't fit with what we want. The head coach at the high school may say, hey, he's not a good locker room guy, or hey, he struggles academically and he doesn't care about this or that. Well, I always say this: when we bring kids on official visits, when they visit unofficially, we get a chance. I'm judging them just as much as they're judging us, right? We got all these bells and whistles. We got these beautiful facilities, but I actually sit back sometimes, or when I'm talking, and look at them, look at their eyes. How are they paying attention, right? When we're talking academics, are they sound asleep? Or are they bright-eyed and bushy-tailed? And so I'm constantly judging these type of guys, because guess what? To play football at a high level at Memphis, I think it's as important. So the biggest thing is I look at, are they passionate? Do they love the game? And if they do, they're usually going to have success in other parts of their life as well.
So what is your personal mantra? Because I kind of have one myself, which is, how bad do you want it? And I asked Coach Merriweather this last week, and I'm curious as to what your personal mantra is.
Yeah, look, as a program, we've been using the all-in mantra, and I can go into all that, and I don't want to bore everybody to death, but my personal mantra is, are you doing the right thing at all times? And that's kind of the biggest thing. Is I constantly challenge our staff, is everything I'm doing today going to make me and our program better? And guess what? I want our players doing the same thing, right? Being a pro, being all in with everything we do, and challenging ourselves to be better with everything. And I think the buy-in from our team, from our program, from our coaches, and myself on a daily basis is what will allow us to continue to have success.
Larry asked about a minute ago, he asked about, what you look for in a player. One thing I've noticed about you is that you are very committed. Obviously, we talked about MAS earlier, but it seems like your Twitter feed is filled with a lot of community service. You're big on community service. Why is that so important to you?
Well, look, we're very fortunate. Myself, personally, very fortunate to be in the position I'm in. But we all, as a program, are very fortunate to be in such a great community. And this is a city, and like I said, that we need to continue to give back to it. It's a city that we're very fortunate. I love this place. I love the 901, but it's also a community that needs some love and care. Let's call it what it is. And the more we can give back, the better off we are. Well, and I always say this, like, when we do those things, when the players go to LeBond or St. Jude or go speak to elementary school, and I'll have them stand up in front of their teammates and I'll say, hey, how did those kids feel? Oh, they loved it. They enjoyed it. Now, how did you feel? It was the best thing I've done all week. And to hear our players say that about giving back to the community makes them feel better, makes them better individuals, makes them appreciate what we're doing on a day-to-day. Yeah, the most important thing, obviously, like we always say, is the Saturdays, but man, what we're able to do in the community and give back, that's going to be a lasting impression on individuals, on ourselves, and makes us better people.
So you talked earlier about some of the coaches you've had the privilege of working under. What is maybe one impactful thing that a coach said or did for you that you kind of carry forward with you and maybe have figured out, how to implement in the program?
One of the things that when I was, with Detroit, obviously I spent 6 years with the Vikings, learned a ton. All 6 years there, I was with Leslie Frazier, and Leslie Frazier's a guy that was on a Tony Dungy's disciple. Spent some time around different guys. It did it at a high level. But then, right before I got here, I was with Jim Caldwell, and Jim Caldwell is just a true leader of men, and he'd been around a lot of people. And, Jim would always talk about, this is the way we do things. This is our standard, and this is not our standard. And what I've been able to do is create these things that, knock on wood, to talk to our players about. This is our standard. This is how we need to behave in society, whether it's cleaning up trash, community service, hustling on the field, right? Making plays, right? And then this is not our standard, right? Seeing trash out in the parking lot, seeing a messy locker room, seeing a player get in trouble from another team. And I think what I've been able to do is take that, and so I can put in perspective of our guys what our standards are. And Mike Tomlin says all the time, the standard is the standard. So that's why we've been able to have, over the back-to-back years, the highest graduation rate of any football program in our conference. I think that's important, right? The highest GPA in program history 2 springs ago. So when we talk about the standard of the way we do things, right? The community service hours. Now, the next standard we need to do, win a championship, right? Now, and I fully understand that's what's important, along with those other things. But I think our guys have bought into that. And that's something I've been able to borrow from Coach Caldwell, is understand what our standards are, what are our standards.
So recently, for those who don't know, Brady White is officially joining the staff. He was kind of unofficially official, around a lot last year. So I'm talking to Seth a lot. How important was it to bring Brady into the fold, and especially with a young quarterback like Seth and Tevin, who's coming on board as well?
Yeah, look, Brady White obviously means the world to this program, and this program means the world to him. He's a guy that is appreciative of Memphis as much as we're appreciative of him. And we know how much he meant to this program, how much he meant to this university, or a Campbell Trophy Award winner. So obviously will be remembered forever. Also the winningest quarterback in program history. So you look at all those things, and to be able to bring a young man of that type of success and caliber back into the program, who's got a very, very bright future in this profession, I think it's huge. And I also think it speaks volumes about the culture being able to create, that he wants to come back and be a part of this. He's had other opportunities to go places and coach, and Sucker just got married last weekend, and he's on his way here now to be fully indicted in this coaching profession. But we're excited about him, and I think he'll make a difference, because he was like Seth, and Tevin and JC French and Ryan Glover and Hunter Helsley. Like, he's an intelligent guy that gets it. And so what we can do is, now we have, Coach Cramsey, who works day in, day out with the quarterbacks, gets it and understands. But, mid-40s now, all of a sudden you have a guy that was mature as a player in Brady White that maybe is a different way of communicating. We know that every 18 to 22-year-old is different. So maybe it's a different voice, but we're not having to reteach him the playbook. He understands it, and he's going to learn. And I think it's going to be a great attribute to us. And I know it seems like the fans in the city are quite fired up to have him back.
Just a couple more questions, kind of quick here. What's the last good book you read or listened to?
Yeah, they've got. I'll swing back around. I'm actually reading a John Maxwell book on leadership. Right, I believe it's the 16 Lessons of Being a Good Leader. That's the bedside table book right now. I don't have time to listen, but I try to turn off the TV at night. In a few hours, I'm at home and pick up a book and read. And so that's the current one I'm on. Mark Greeny is a local writer. So I've been able to read some of his books kind of when I want to escape into, some espionage stuff like that, kind of lose my mind maybe. But we're just very fortunate with that stuff. But man, before too long, the only book I'll be reading is playbook material.
And the last question, why do you coach?
Yeah, I think, just like I did when I first got in this profession, is to make a difference in young men's lives. And that's not coach speak. That's the genuine reality of this whole thing. I hope that every young man that I've been given the opportunity to come across make an impact in their lives, that we make an impact, right? Whether they're better husbands, better fathers, better citizens, that one day they can say, man, this guy made a difference. And that's ultimately why I do it. Look, I hope my tombstone has an awesome head coaching record on it. I really do. But that's not what's going to be important. It's going to be the people that are going to remember the way we've impacted people, all the way when I started coaching when I was 18. And I hope I have the opportunity to continue to lead Memphis the right way and continue to pour into these young men. And just so fortunate, I don't take the duties of being a head football coach and the number of people that we're so fortunate to impact on a day-to-day. And I remember that every single day, whether it's the midnight hours, breaking down game film, or being able to run out the tunnel with the team, how important it is and how special the impact we can make on a day-to-day. And those relationships with these young men, I hope I carry on forever.
All practice starts in about 3 weeks on August 3rd, and the first game Saturday, September 3rd. So you're about to be a very, very busy man, Coach, and we appreciate you taking some time out to join us today.
Absolutely. Appreciate you guys. Thanks for having me on. Thanks for the great questions. And to all of our fans, look forward to seeing you guys out this season, and go Tigers.
Awesome.
Yeah.
That'll wrap things up for Why I Coach today with Coach Ryan Silverfield, and we will talk to everybody soon.